Welcome to day 5 of the virtual Northeast Ohio Youth Football Summit. My name is Daryl Taylor, Youth Football Director for your Cleveland Browns. Today we have Dr. James Voos with us, who will lead a discussion on the very important topic, return to play, responsible start for athletics. Dr. Voos is the head team physician for the Cleveland Browns and chairman of the Department of Orthopedic Surgery for University Hospitals. He is also on the Governor's Advisory Group for Sports. We are very happy to have Dr. Voos with us today. During the presentation today, please send us any questions using the chat or Q&A portal below. Dr. Voos will have time at the end of the presentation to answer any questions. Also, please feel free to share your thoughts on social media using hashtag NEO Summit and tag our youth football Twitter and Facebook pages at Browns Youth FB. Without further ado, I'll turn it over to Dr. Voos. Take it away, Dr. Voos.
Great. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you here today. And I'm excited that we are headed towards a direction of seeing our youth sports take off here. Even if we're doing this in a staged fashion, I'm excited that we're starting to plan for things moving forward. Today I wanted to talk to you about our responsible restart for athletics. And I appreciate the Cleveland Browns organization for setting this up, and I've really appreciated the time we've been able to spend with all of the coaches out there. Much of this information has been disseminated to the athletic trainers at the schools, and wanted to provide an update to allow us to have that conversation as to where we're at with our responsible restart as we work towards getting our athletes back out to play. I did want to quickly add that as you can see in the media and on the news and on the governor's press conferences, this information is ever changing. And this is a group effort of which we are going to provide these guidelines to help us get back to play. So these are continuing to evolve, and as major changes occur, we'll certainly work to disseminate this information to the rest of the group. I did want to start by quickly thanking the Responsible Sports Restart team at University Hospitals. We have a group of physicians, both at the pediatric and adult level, our sports medicine administration, as well as our school health directors, infectious disease, and our safety officers who are knowledgeable about all of the chemicals and hygiene protocols, of which we've been able to put together a comprehensive program to hit this from all levels. 5 things we wanted to quickly talk about today as to how we can proceed back towards as normal of a sports environment as possible. And we'll review each of these here today about why we're going to do this restart the way we are. Quickly, a little bit about COVID, ways to prevent the spread, some of our screening criteria and training criteria, and then a few interventions we can make to smartly to help us in a smart fashion get us back into an athletic environment. So all of us are committed here to getting our athletes back playing sports. We understand it's not only for the physical well-being of our athletes, but the mental well-being of being with their peers, the ability to exercise and feel better about themselves and that social interaction. But the way also to do this restart is to allow the athletes, families, and coaches to feel comfortable back around each other and in the athletic environment. And then a big push from my end, being part of the governor's task force, is to allow our athletes to get back in shape. So as we do start full sports again, that we've worked to prevent those injuries and reduce those injuries as things work to get back up to full speed here in the fall. And then ultimately, if we don't do this responsibly, we don't want to lose the privilege of continuing to have the opportunity to work with our athletes, and we'd hate to have things go backwards and our opportunity for sports has been diminished. And we also want to do this to protect each other. And that's what we say. We want to do this right and provide the best opportunity we can for every athlete and family. And a key part, and this is as coaches, I know this is a big part of what you preach to the players on a regular basis. This really is a team approach. It's a shared responsibility. We're all there to take care of each other. athletes, parents, coaches, our school administration, all of our healthcare team. We're really all in there to protect ourselves, to protect our families, to protect each other. And that's one of the things to really drive home with your athletes, is that a part of being a team is us looking out for each other, us all doing our part, and can help us do this successfully. We won't touch on this a whole lot, but just for completeness' sake, wanted to review a lot of what our coronavirus symptoms are. And the main part of coronavirus, why we've heard all of these different descriptions in the news, is most people, the vast majority of people that present with coronavirus, have a fever, and they have a cough, and it's usually shortness of breath and cough down in their chest. So I often draw a line, if you think of from your mouth down, if they're coughing, fever, and it's down in their chest, that's much more concerning than if it's runny nose, itchy eyes, that may be an allergy. So, but if nothing else, when in doubt, the athlete should stay home, should contact a designated person at the school or the athletic facility, but also contact the healthcare provider to get a sense if it's just allergies, it's just a runny nose, or are these true symptoms to be concerned about. But fever is certainly most important, and that those chest symptoms can present. We have seen some reports of loss of smell or loss of sense of taste, and GI symptoms where diarrhea or upset stomach. But the main part of this is that the fever and the cough and shortness of breath are the key symptoms for us to monitor for. And again, we counsel the parents and the athletes when in doubt, stay home. Often it's a simple phone call that we can sort through this, and then from there, we have decided to come in and watch it for a day or so and move forward from there. Coronavirus spreads from person-to-person contact, and it's often from droplets in the air. And that's primarily from coughing or sneezing, person to person. It can occur on surfaces, so if you cough in your hand and touch a doorknob or touch a ball, and then that person touches their face, certainly can happen from that standpoint as well. And the main part why we talk to everybody about their symptoms is you're most contagious when you're symptomatic. Meaning if you don't feel well or you have a fever, that may mean you have active virus, and that's the time where people really need to stay home. You hear a lot in the news about these asymptomatic carriers and passing it around without symptoms, and that's impossible. But on a global part, we're the most contagious when you're having symptoms. So I can't drive it home enough. If you don't feel well, we need folks to stay home. This particular virus is not one that's been around for a long time, or this flavor of virus has not been around for a long time. So this isn't one where we have a whole lot of immunity that's already floating around. That's why we've seen so many people getting this so quickly. And we know that one person's symptomatic can really spread this around person to person. So that's why these screening questions and fever checks that we talked about are so important, so that we prevent this spread. So a couple of the tips of how we decrease the spread in our athletes. And again, we're in this first phase where we're not in contact sports. So there'll be more to come here as more data comes out and planning for the future when we're actually tackling face-to-face. And that will be a whole other set of discussions. So these ways that we're talking about preventing spread are really when we're in this first phase of starting in those groups of 10, working out outside, working out in the weight room, and these will continue to evolve as we move forward. So a couple of quick highlights, and you may have heard many of these before, but we can't overemphasize that enough, is to counsel our athletes when you don't feel well to stay home. If you have a fever, we want to watch that fever for several days, and this is fever. You're not on medicine, so if you're feeling crummy and you have an elevated temperature, it's not take a Tylenol or Motrin to get your fever down and go on and play. It's really if you're not feeling well, we want to stay home. Talk about avoiding crowds and close contact with people who are sick. So your athletes are really having to be smart about where they're spending their time around large groups of people, or if they do have a family member or a neighbor who is sick, they want to make sure that they're able to keep that distance. Frequent hand washing, we also can't stress enough. That's whether it's with soap and water, whether that's with the Purell or the alcohol hand cleanser. Athletes can't do that too much. So if they're in the building working out, in between stations, if they're going from outside to inside, that frequent hand washing is one of the most important things you can do. We all talk about how to cover your mouth when you cough, and we all know how to sneeze into your elbow instead of sneezing in your hand. And one of the things we can do as coaches and healthcare providers and athletic trainers are to look and review what those high-touch surfaces are, make sure that those are cleansed at least once a day, but if not, wipe down here in between sessions we have groups coming in. And in those frequently touched places, so elevator buttons and all the handrails going up and downstairs, all of those type of things, just want to be mindful of what. I know that's nearly impossible, but just being mindful of that as our athletes, when they're in a team environment, we can provide them everything possible to avoid that potential spread. And some of the other safety precautions we can consider are how to use masks and gloves or face shields. And then some of these ways we can spread ourselves out when we're working out, and the screening questions when we come into play. So you may have seen some of these graphics in various ways here, but we have found when both people, this bottom graphic, when both people interacting or wearing a mask and keeping that 6-foot distance, the potential to spread the disease from one person to the other goes down dramatically. So when we're traveling from place to place, when we're sitting on the bench there together, that both people being masked is very helpful. And we're going to talk about not wearing masks while the athlete is working out. But when we're traveling to and from, if we're sitting in meetings together, the distance and both being masked dramatically reduce the risk of spread. Obviously, one person being masked is helpful, but the distance and both people being masked is very, very effective in reducing the risk of transmission. We won't go through this in a whole lot of detail, but when you really want to practice putting on your mask, we have cloth masks is sufficient, making sure that when you talk, and if you're coaching and you're going to be out moving around, it's one where you feel like you can talk comfortably without it falling off your face. It's not too loose, it's not too tight. And one of the things when you're around a lot of people, you want that mask to be one that you fashioned and fit appropriately so that you don't have to continually touch your hand to your face to adjust your mask. Just avoid if there is any of that, anybody coughing or breathing on you, the less you're touching that mask, the more they can help you. We do have instructions here that we'll provide in this PowerPoint on the CDC website as to how to use your masks and wash your hands after you take your mask off at the end of the day. It's a good idea to throw it in the washing machine or to wash it in soap and water here at the end of each day if you're not interacting with a lot of people. So when we get to the workout sessions and thinking about your equipment, we talked about washing the mask here on a regular basis. And with our sports equipment, as much of the equipment as the athletes can have individually, be better. With footballs and things like that, there's going to be some shared use of the balls, but as much as we can have each individual amount of equipment, the better. We talked with all our athletes to schools that the water bottle, the athlete's water bottle, is one of those prerequisites to them coming and participating. Every athlete should have their own water bottle. It's okay if you have your water faucet or your hose or such that can refill those water bottles, but we want to make one person responsible for refilling those water bottles, and obviously we don't want them to touch them as little as possible, so that each athlete has their own water supply. And we tell everybody, just like you got to bring your cleats and your shorts when you come work out, everybody's got to bring their own water jug. It is an added cost to your school, but something to consider is the no-touch water fountains, where you can set your water fountain and that the little sensor will fill up your water jug without having to push a button like you do on a water fountain. So something to consider for the long-term facilities. The other thing we recommend when the athletes come to work out is that they bring a change of clothes or even just a change of shirt. when they're done working out, because the athletes are going to be running or going to be around each other and sweating. And when they go home, the best thing to do is to buy one of those $5 mesh workout bags, training bags that when they're done working out, they throw that saturated shirt in their mesh bag. They put their clean shirt on when they go home, and again, it just prevents that exposure to whoever they're in the car with, and it's just a good hygiene measure. And that mesh bag carried out is a better idea than taking their dirty clothes and shoving it right into their clean backpack, and then they've contaminated the backpack. So again, these aren't things that you have to do, but they're just good ways to, if we're looking for all those ways to protect each other in your games, change clothes from their workouts, and those mesh bags help in attempting to avoid using the lockers. That way we don't have that sweaty sending the lockers, and the lockers needing to be clean all the time. And after practice, putting everything in those bags, so when they get home, mom, dad, or the athlete know that they can, that's the bag to clean and to keep separate here when they get home. So get little tricks as they're headed home. And as the athletes work in sessions, we do recommend wear their masks to and from the session. You do not need to wear your mask during activity. That's been one of the things we've all agreed that where we want to make sure we don't cause any other problems with the masks on during our activity. And then we talk about screening, and we'd be happy to help provide those screening questions. Here, but the main part is before the athlete comes each day, do they or have they had fever? Do they have any cough, shortness of breath, or chest symptoms? Is anybody sick at home? Those things should all be asked and attested to each day, as well as taking their temperature less than 100 degrees with the temperature. And every school can work that out differently. Some schools want to take the temperature and do the screening on site, have the athletes sign in. Other schools have that all done at home. Take your temperature at home, ask those questions at home, and they sign in on your Google Calendar or whatever your team communication is each day. The athlete or the parent tests no fever questions related. That way you have that log and that documentation that each athlete and family have tested to that. And then before and after you start practice, at least making sure everybody's washing their hands before they all start working together, whether it's hand sanitizer or washing your hands. And these practice spots, I think, here is one of the more important things that you can do. So you can have, so if you're out on your football field, you can have a larger group of athletes there, but they're just divided up into those pods of 10 athletes. And ideally, it's those same 10 athletes working out together each day. That way, if somebody does get sick in one pod, they haven't been bouncing from pod to pod and spreading to each group. So if one person does have to get sick, you know which pod they've been interacting with. You can trace back to that and counsel the athletes appropriately in terms of monitoring for symptoms. So we're not mixing. And so those pods can help you not spreading from person to person. Sitting in the weight room, if one pod is in the weight room, the other ones can be outside, and you can rotate, and that gives you the opportunity as each of those 10 rotate around to kind of clean and wipe things down in between. The other thing to think about is somebody from necessity and practicality, there are people that may be carpooling together. So I would recommend those that carpool together be in the same pod. And if siblings, if it's a sophomore and senior sibling, they should be in the same pod there as well. And I know that can be challenging when you're trying to have freshmen and varsity work out together. And you can still divide the pods however you like, but some of the practical nature of just keeping exposure groups that are having those carpool pods and household pods, those athletes working together again, so you have contained and traceable groups if you need to backtrack from that standpoint. With the weight room again, keeping everyone in those pods of 10 while they're working out, not having everybody come together. Everybody likes to take off their shirts in the weight room, and this is the time where we want everybody to wear a shirt and you're not sweating sweaters around as much. And then getting a sense of what those tight touch surfaces are and cleaning those in between the use. This is where the wipes really do come in and where the shared responsibility comes in. The athletes, all right, the second you get off that piece of equipment, you wipe it down and hold your buddy accountable asking, hey, did you lay down this piece of equipment? Again, so you're protecting themselves, protecting each other, using hand sanitizer between each of the stations. And if possible, I know a lot of weight rooms are in poorly ventilated areas or down in the basement, but you have the ability to open up windows or to keep that fresh air going through, and we don't have fans blowing everything directly in, but the true fresh air coming through can be very helpful. And then working with your environmental specialists at the school as to how to do that, really good once over of the training room or the weight room at the end of each day, at the end of each larger session. As we space outside, when we're doing our drills outside and having the athletes standing in line so they're not all pumped up. And one of the things we found very helpful, instead of having the athletes stand in rows, they can stand in that checkerboard pattern where they're kind of staggered, not only behind each other, but right to left, they're staggered just to maintain that spacing. Also allows them to see out of the line from that standpoint. And we talked about using their own water bottle and going up directly behind each other. Again, that way it just allows everybody to keep a little bit of space with that staggered checkerboard pattern. Still allows you to be around each other outside and just adds that practical nature. We talked about the screening each day. The coaches and the students should attest to this. Coaches, if you have any assistants or any volunteers or such help, we want to make sure that everyone is doing these questions this morning. Cough, sore throat, shortness of breath, fever greater than 100 degrees, or anyone around them who has been sick. If you're going to take temperatures at school, the infrared, the no-touch thermometers are recommended versus the ones where you're selecting them repetitively, and having your athletes respond to those or test of those each time. And anyone who has a positive screen should stay home or not enter the building. Should go home, contact their physician for further instructions as to whether they need to be tested or whether they just need to stay home and monitor their symptoms. And again, should a positive happen and you're working out in those pods, it allows that tracing into the pods and notifying those particular families to watch, to monitor for symptoms from that. Anybody with those positive screening tests, questions whether they've had fever or not, and then anybody with a fever needs to stay home and should see a physician or contact their physician prior to returning. There are a lot of these criteria to talk about whether someone is able to come back or not. We certainly don't want to put the coach or anyone at school needing to go through these, but essentially you have no fever for 72 hours. You have no symptoms, no fever for 72 hours. If someone has tested positive, they need to be home for at least 10 days from the onset of their symptoms and no fever for 3 days before they come back. And that's, as the healthcare providers, we can help you navigate through that. But just wanted to have here some of the guidelines as to what each of the physicians and healthcare providers have been instructed as to when somebody can come back. So essentially, it's 10 to 14 days from when someone has had a positive test and they have no fever and no symptoms. So 10 days out and despite the fever, we still need to wait until all of those symptoms have resolved prior to somebody being back in the building. And I would really make sure we're conservative in enforcing this to protect your team. The big part of this we're talking about is at the professional level and at the youth level, somebody is ultimately going to test positive. Right? And the whole goal of this is to isolate the spread. So if it's that one person or one or two people that test positive, you can isolate and know what pod they were in, remove those two people until they are better, and avoid an outbreak of the entire building. And that's really what we're trying to do across the entire team is should somebody test positive and that we've taken all of these measures that we've had people appropriately studied, it's not the entire team who is exposed and it's just small groups. When we think of our environments, we want to talk about our traffic flow. And one of the things that's worked in a lot of our organizations is having a one-way flow through the building. So if you're coming off the practice field and going into the weight room, everybody's going in one direction and leave out the other door, so you set that one path. That way, those coming in and out aren't crossing each other. So, getting arrows on the floor and signs of this is the way in, this is the way out. It keeps everybody flowing in that fashion where we're not crossing paths. Again, those 10-person groups, keeping the windows open, and with their equipment, and that's what we'll talk about here in just a moment, is how to cleanse your equipment. Again, everybody knows how to use hand sanitizer, but the one thing I'll tell you with the hand sanitizer is to tell everybody to slow down. They often slap it on their hands and they're still wet, and they jump right into working out. Rub it all over your hands, give it a couple seconds to dry, and then go on to the next station. I know that takes a little bit of time to do it, but it takes 15 or 20 seconds. Rub it over your hands, let it dry. Don't just get your hands wet with the hand sanitizer and move on. Give it a chance to do its thing and work. And it's the alcohol drying on your hands that helps to cleanse your hands of the virus. So we talked about the high-touch surfaces, and wipes really have shown to be very helpful, because if you spray things down, you have to spray it down, let it dry, and then come out and wipe it off again with a towel. So if you were going to purchase one type of thing in your facility, it really is wipes. And looking in your facility's flow as to what are the high-touch environments that as you're looking in between pods, what tops or what surfaces you want to hit, or work with your environmental surfaces to hit here as you're going in between environments. You want any product on the back, and I've circled this for it to have that EPA registration number. That way you know that the disinfectant is appropriate to treat on a person and for these type of pathogens. You also know that it's not a chemical that can be dangerous to your athletes, either irritating their skin or irritating their lungs. There's a lot of these ones that spray and they get into the air, and if you have a lot of people working out in space, it can irritate your lungs and make people cough. So you want to see that EPA registration number on the back of any product that you're using. This has the link to the EPA site if you have any questions, but the vast majority of the athletic trainers and the environmental services at schools have these lists of the disinfectants already. When you're cleaning, it's not a bad idea to write things down. If you're doing that terminal cleaning, or somebody doing all of the services, wear gloves and making sure the doors are open. Again, wipes still work the best. We've had this question come up quite a bit with equipment and balls, particularly if they're dirty or muddy. The best thing to do is wiping off all of the organic material first. So a wet towel, wiping down the ball to make sure all the mud and sludge off of it, and then you wipe it down using the wipe. That's the best thing to do. And same thing at home when they get home. If they're going to wipe off their shoes, or if they're wiping off their ball at home, just making sure that they're not doing wiping down soap water, just hot water, and then using wipes to clean the material. That way, that disinfectant has the chance to get all the way down into the surfaces of that material. So this is just a quick summary of what we talked about. Is that shared responsibility. The staff and coaches wearing masks at all times to be a good example. The athletes wearing their masks to and from, keeping everyone spread out, pods of 10, attesting to our symptoms, and doing as much of that training outside as we can. The mesh workout bags to swap out your shirt on the way home can all help to keep the safe environment. A couple of the things I did want to bring up here at the end, and I wanted to leave plenty of time for questions, is school physicals. The Ohio State Athletic Association has put out some recommendations about school physicals. I know University of Hospitals, we routinely offer a large participation physical day where we allow, last year I think we gave around 900 physicals to athletes. This year, the Ohio State Athletic Association, as well as the state, has recommended that we not do these mass physical events. So we do recommend that athletes call their physician into those physical offices. The OHSA is still requiring those participation physicals be performed for grades 7 through 12. And they strongly discourage those mass physicals. This is a year where it's very good to have those physicals done with their doctor at their medical home, not with at the CVS with their chiropractors, although they were wonderful. But this is a year where really seeing your physician is helpful to help you screen for risk factors, your family's risk factors, to help someone know that it's safe. And if someone does happen to test positive, we want to help them have that contact and that access to their physician as much as possible. So we're working with all the athletic trainers at university hospitals. Yeah, all of our primary care offices and our pediatricians' offices have opened extra slots and slots late in the day to accommodate these extra physicals to make sure that they get it done in a timely fashion. So I'll provide some information here as to how to access from our physicians if you have that. If we can get assistance here if your athlete does not have a physician to see. We hope to resume those pre-participation mass physicals here next year. Again, we need to have that be the place where athletes from different schools all congregate and create a problem. So this is maybe one of the most important slides to bring up because this information changes and it's updated weekly. If you paid attention to all the press conferences and what you hear about pro and collegiate sports, it is a roller coaster up and down as to we're going to do this, we're not going to do this. And so what these recommendations are now, I am certain are going to look different by the time our athletes start school or by the time our official camp starts. So we're just in this phase, and that's what I really wanted to stress is a lot of these guidelines are going to be updated. So you may be thinking, gosh, there's no way we're going to be able to do this through the whole year. How are we going to be able to practice football with all these restrictions? Again, every week, these continue to be updated, and as we have major updates to the phases, with OHSAA, through the Ohio Department of Health, through all the school organizations that we visit with, will continue to provide those updates as it is safe to start doing more competitive practices and true practices. We'll have to update everyone from that standpoint. The Cleveland Brown organizations and university hospitals have worked very closely with all of our infectious disease specialists, as well as our experts at the NFL league central office level have been meeting regularly as to how to have the same considerations for our professional athletes. And the nice part is the recommendations from all of our pro sports and from the NFL in particular allows us all of the time and effort and financial resources that we put into safe professional football restart will really help us guide us at the scholastic level. That's one of the nice benefits of being linked and connected to a professional sports organization. Our physician, Sean Kopp, and myself, as well as others connected with the NCAA, Sean Kopp is on the MAC on their collegiate responsible restart committee as on the governor's task force. So we've got this information coming our way to continue to pass on to the group. I want to provide a couple of quick resources. If you have any questions for athletes that need to be seen for sports injuries or things that are coming up, at uhsports.org or 216-983-PLAY. If you have an athlete that needs to see a physician or doesn't have a physician, certainly happy to go wherever your healthcare provider is. Our pediatricians and physicians within the system have vacancies available to see your athletes. That's uhrainbow.org/pediatrics. Has a list of all our pediatric physicians, including your information. They will contact you, or contact the family for their athlete to be seen. We want to make sure that every athlete has a medical home, and this year more than any is an important one to have a comprehensive participation physical exam. Again, we're all in this together. This is just phase one. We want to make sure that athletes, families, coaches, schools feel comfortable. We get everybody back in shape. We used to have a maneuvering around each other at this distance. Show that this is a safe and effective way for us to do this, and we move into the next phases as we move further into the summer and get us back to sports in the fall. Certainly, I'm not only the team physician with the Browns, I take care of Hawken and Oberlin and several of our other school organizations. I've got 3 kids at home, so I want everybody to make up their plans as well. So on the side of responsible sports and want to get our athletes back out there as soon as we can. So I will stop there. There are some of the resources that will be attached here from all of the organizations of which we mentioned. And I'll stop there and turn it back over to Daryl and take any questions that we may have here amongst the group.
Thank you very much, Dr. Voos. Very, very thorough presentation. We really appreciate all the information that you shared with us today. Yeah, we had a couple questions that came through during the presentation that we can ask at this time. The first one was, do you recommend antibody testing before the school starts training, or is it counterproductive?
Yeah, so we have not, and Daryl, can you still hear me? I'm sorry, I want to make
Yes.
sure my microphone was great. Thank you.
Yes.
We do not routinely recommend antibody testing yet. One, it's making sure it's widely available so that all the athletes have access to it. If you have, say you have the antibody test and it shows you have the antibodies, there is some, we think that may provide immunity or show that you're immune, but it's not guaranteed. And the vast majority of people will likely test negative for the antibodies, and it doesn't necessarily provide us any relief or any further information from that standpoint. So I think the best thing that we have here now is really to monitor for symptoms, monitor for fever, and that's the most important in showing that people are symptomatic. The antibody test may become more widely available, but until we know that if you have the antibodies, you are for sure immune, we have not recommended it at any level here yet.
Got it. Thank you. Next question was, do you think mandatory testing for coaching should be required?
Yeah, in the same fashion for the coaches, I think the symptom screens are the most important. And I know this may be answering the question in a different way, but I think the main part is the coaches. If there is a coach that's of an advanced age or has any health problems, that coach needs to be comfortable being around an environment to make sure they're safe. In a similar fashion, though, I don't think and it is not a recommendation at this point that the coaches undergo testing, again, unless you had any symptoms. And I would flip it the other way of making sure if there are coaches that have any concerns about their underlying health issues, just to make sure that they're comfortable with the environment that they're in.
Got it. Next question was, if one athlete tests positive, should the entire team self-quarantine?
Yeah, that's where the pods of 10 really come into play. And so if a person does test positive, that's where knowing who's in your pod is helpful. So that athletes should stay home. They should contact their healthcare provider. And what they'll likely recommend, and what has been the recommendation, is to reach out to that pod of 10 to say someone has had an exposure in your group. If everyone has been following those social distancing guidelines, it is many people say they want, the conservative recommendation would be to not return to our workout activities and monitor for symptoms for 2 weeks. At the least, it's having them know that that's the case, keeping that pod together and making sure that they're not interacting with others. But the most conservative thing would be to have that pod out of the workouts and monitoring for symptoms versus the entire team. And that's where the importance of separating everybody comes into play. And that continues to evolve. So that would be the conservative and down the middle approach would be that pod would need to withdraw and monitor for symptoms, but not the entire team if they've been separated.
Got it. Thank you very much. Another question, I guess it's coming from a coach. You said it's kind of difficult to blow a whistle outside. Do coaches have to wear a mask while coaching outside?
Yeah, they still do. It is still the recommendation to wear a mask outside, and it is tricky to have the whistle in there and blow it. If you are at a distance from the athletes and need to lift up your mask to blow the whistle, you can do so. And the main part is that you're at a distance from the athletes when doing so. You maybe want to step back a little bit more, be a little bit more from a distance. That's the practical nature of it versus everybody being right up on each other and blowing the whistle from there. So if you're out away from the guys, I think if you have to lift your mask up to blow the whistle, that's a very practical thing to be able to do.
Got it. All right. And no further questions, but do you have any last parting words or recommendations for youth high school coaches?
I just wanted to thank all the coaches. I know this is a very challenging environment, and we appreciate what you do, and we appreciate your interest in partnering with your athletes being safe. As we have additional information moving forward, we'll make sure to share it with you, pass it on to Daryl and the broader channels here. So we're here as a resource. I'm excited to get the athletes back up. Hopefully, we can get us doing more here in the near future.
Thank you. Really appreciate you, Dr. Voos, for taking time. I know you're busy man right now, considering COVID-19 and everything else that's going on. So really thank you for taking time to speak with us and giving us information on how to return to play safely.
Great. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and good luck to all the coaches out there. And Daryl, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you. And make sure you tune in on Monday. We will come back with week 2 of the Northeast Ohio Youth Football Summit, starting with the new NFL flag with reigning champs. And we will email you this presentation so everyone will have a copy so that they can share with parents and other coaches as well. Thank you and have a great weekend.